Welcome to the Geriatric Dietitian, your go-to resource for nutrition that supports health, independence, and confidence in aging. I'm your host, Katie Dodd, registered dietitian and geriatric nutrition expert. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of the Geriatric Dietitian Podcast, Vitamin B12 for Seniors, Preventing Deficiency in Older Adults. Now, we've been talking about a bunch of different nutrients that are important for healthy aging, and today we are talking all about vitamin B12. Now, what makes this vitamin unique is that the issue typically isn't about intake alone. It has to do more with absorption of the nutrient in our body. So in today's episode, we're going to look at what vitamin B12 does, why older adults are at a higher risk for deficiency. We're going to talk about what the recommendations for vitamin B12 are, and then the risks of deficiency if you're not getting enough. We're going to dive into food sources, supplements, and kind of wrap up with why vitamin B12 deserves attention in healthy aging. Now, as always on this podcast, the information that I'm providing is general nutrition education and should not be considered individualized advice. Vitamin B12 status, supplementation, and treatment should all be discussed with your health care provider. So, what does vitamin B12 do? Like all of the nutrients, vitamin B12 does a lot in the body. Specifically, this nutrient helps to support nerve health, brain health, red blood cell production, DNA production, and energy metabolism. And because vitamin B12 affects the nervous system and red blood cells, deficiency symptoms can lead to really serious health concerns if it goes untreated. So why is B12 so important for older adults? One of the reasons that this topic is so important is because absorption often decreases with age. In order for our bodies to absorb vitamin B12 from food, the stomach needs to be able to produce enough acid and intrinsic factor, which helps the body to properly absorb that vitamin B12. As people age, stomach acid production may decrease, and as such, there's less stomach acid, less intrinsic factor, and the body's not able to absorb the vitamin B12 they're eating. So it's not always a matter of you're not eating enough vitamin B12. It might just be your body's no longer absorbing and processing it like it used to. So let's talk about what the recommendations are, the recommended dietary allowance, the RDAs for B12. What is kind of unique about this nutrient compared to the other nutrients we've been discussing up until now is that the needs for this nutrient stay the same throughout adulthood. So for all adults, from the time you're 19 to end of life, the recommended daily allowance of vitamin B12 is 2.4 micrograms per day. Now, we've already talked about calcium, vitamin D, vitamin B6, and we shared how, as you get older, needs for these nutrients increase, but with B12, it stays the same. However, the risk of deficiency does increase, and that is because of the absorption changes that we've been talking about in aging. So I'm going to repeat this just because I want to make sure that this is easy to understand, because I know sometimes it could be confusing as I start talking about things and using different terms, but older adults don't require more vitamin B12 than younger adults, but absorption of vitamin B12 may decrease with age. In the RDA, that recommended dietary allowance is based on an assumption that 50% of vitamin B12 is being absorbed in the body. However, approximately 10 to 30% of older adults are unable to absorb vitamin B12 through food sources alone because of what we talked about, that decrease in stomach acid, decrease in intrinsic factor. Therefore, it is recommended that older adults get at least half of their vitamin B12 through fortified foods and supplements. So we'll talk more about that as we go down later, but I just wanted to wrap that up again and paint the picture of why this nutrient is important. But let's talk about what can happen if you're not getting enough B12 or your body's just not absorbing enough. One of the reasons B12 deficiency is concerning because the symptoms can sometimes develop slowly and often go unnoticed. Too little vitamin B12 can cause anemia, fatigue, gastrointestinal or GI issues, constipation, unintended weight loss, neurological changes, confusion, and soreness of the mouth or tongue. If left untreated, vitamin B12 deficiency can cause permanent nerve damage. And while there is a significant risk of vitamin B12 deficiency with low intake, it's very unlikely that vitamin B12 intake from food and supplementation can cause toxicity. So we're not typically concerned about, getting too much. It's more not getting enough. And because the symptoms that we just talked about, that anemia, fatigue, GI issues, constipation, unintended weight loss, neurological changes, confusion, some of these symptoms can often overlap with other conditions associated with aging. Sometimes vitamin B12 deficiency can be missed. This is one of the reasons why working with your healthcare team is so important, because they will run labs and they will be able to determine where you're at and if you have need for additional vitamin B12 supplementation. And we'll talk a little bit more actually about that. So how common is vitamin B12 deficiency? This can be pretty common in older adults, and research suggests that deficiency in low B12 status increases with age, particularly in adults over age 60. And again, this is more related to absorption changes than not eating enough. So, if you are ever in a situation where like, shoot, my B12 is low, I feel like I'm eating enough foods, this isn't something to put blame on. The body's just working against us. But I do want to talk about food sources of vitamin B12, because not everyone is going to be experiencing this. So we want to make sure everyone's knowing what foods are high in vitamin B12 so you could be sure to eat plenty throughout the day. Vitamin B12 is primarily found in animal products. Older adults who consume little to no animal products can be at risk for vitamin B12 deficiency, but it's not like a blanket statement. It simply means that if you're not eating animal products, be mindful of eating fortified foods with B12 or take a supplement. So you can eat a diet that doesn't have meat and still be good on your B12. You just have to be mindful and aware of this, because B12 mostly comes from animal foods. So good sources of vitamin B12 include meat, fish, poultry, clams, beef liver, eggs, milk, yogurt, and cheese. Some fortified foods that contain vitamin B12, and again, you do have to read the label to make sure this product is fortified, but fortified cereals, fortified plant milks, and even fortified nutritional yeasts. So some older adults are not able to get adequate B12 through food alone. We've been having this conversation. So supplementation may be needed, and this could be through a multivitamin or a single vitamin supplement. It is really important that if this is you work with your healthcare team to determine whether supplementation is needed. Some older adults may benefit from vitamin B12 supplements, but it really depends on the individual. People at higher risk may include older adults with poor absorption, older adults taking certain medications, those with GI issues, or those who are eating very limited foods or very limited animal products. And this is another example of why individualized recommendations matter. Some people may only need fortified foods, so getting foods with that B12 added to it, while others may require oral supplements, so taking a vitamin B12 supplement every day. Some people, though, they might even need vitamin B12 injections, depending on the severity of their deficiency and absorption issues. So this is definitely something, if you've had lab work done and your B12 is low, be sure to be working with your healthcare professionals and team to get this evaluated and treated based on your situation. So why B12 matters with healthy aging? I think one of the reasons vitamin B12 is such an important nutrient with healthy aging is because it supports so many systems that are important with independence and quality of life. Things like nerve health, cognitive health, mobility, energy levels, and balance. And because deficiency risk increases with aging, it's an important nutrient to pay attention to, even though it might not get as much attention as like maybe our vitamin D and calcium that we've been talking about before. So to wrap things up today, vitamin B12 does a lot of things in the body. It supports nerve health, brain health, and red blood cell production. The RDA, how much we should have a day, stays the same throughout adulthood. It's 2.4 micrograms per day. But deficiency risk does increase with aging due to absorption changes. Certain medications can interfere with absorption. B12 is mainly found in animal foods and fortified foods, and supplementation should always be individualized. Now, if you would like to learn more, you could always go visit my website, the Geriatric Dietitian. And yeah, I hope that you found this episode helpful. Be sure to follow the podcast, share it with someone who you think will benefit from this episode or the podcast in general. And thank you so much for listening. I will see you in the next episode. Want simple nutrition tips to support healthy aging? Download my free guide, 10 Essential Nutrition Tips for Healthy Aging, packed with practical ways to stay strong, nourished, and independent as you age. Grab your free copy in the show notes or visit thegeriatricdietitian.com.